Here we can see the front of the machine. This is the access doorway for the clamping frame. Opens up like so. Here's the clamping frame in the open position. To open and close the clamping frame, you have a switch on the side here. Also from here you can see the overhead tooling table. We have a air pressure outlet. For the top pressure assist box. Here you can see the cooling fans. And you can see the lower tooling table. Okay, here we have a air pressure gauge for the upper air pressure assist box. So you can see the amount of PSI being injected into the box. And this is the main control, PLC control. Here we have emergency shut-off switch. Here we'll take a look at the functions of the PLC. The first thing we'll take a look at is how to actually start a cycle. After inserting your plastic into the machine and closing the access door, you have your start cycle button, and that will begin the heating process. You can see the countdown of the heating here. We'll demonstrate that now. So you can see below the heat time, we have it set currently for 160 seconds, and below that you can see the countdown to the completion of the heating cycle. If we wanted to advance the cycle, let's say we're doing setup and we don't know what our timings are going to be exactly, we can hit the advance button, and that will end the heating cycle, and it will complete the rest of the operations of the machine. You can also cancel the cycle entirely by simply opening the access door. It will reset everything and bring everything back to a zero state. Below that you can see your tool. Here we can see the tooling heater control. What you can do from here is you can control the heat plate of the tool. You can turn it on and off from here. And it's split into two zones and two temperature read inputs. The way to control it is you can set it for a range, basically a maximum temperature and a reset temperature. Once it reaches the maximum temperature, it will turn the heating coils off. And once it gets below the reset temperature, it will turn them back on. So we can set the zone for 150 degrees. So once it reaches 150, it will turn the coil off, and we'll set the reset for 145. So once it gets below 145 degrees, it will turn it back on, and you can get a range of temperature that way. Next to the heat time, you can see just a basic parts counter. You can see how many cycles we put on it. Next to the tooling heater, you can see the actual equipment oven and it works in the same way. We have an upper and lower readout indicator here. So we can set the upper oven for a range just like the tooling. We have it set for 350, so if it gets beyond 350 it will shut off, and if it gets below 345 it will turn back on. Same thing for the lower oven. And in addition to the thermal couple control of the oven, you also have a zone control. So we'll first look at the upper heat. And with the zone control, you can control the percentage output of each zone in the oven. You have a total of 7 zones. The front and back zone are connected onto one. So, for example, if we needed less heat in the center of the oven, we could turn down. And this allows us to generate more heat around the edge, less heat in the center, or whatever your particular application would require. Gives you more flexibility and more control over the oven. You can also do an overall increase or decrease here of the entire oven. And if you're not using a zone, you can just turn it off by pressing into the zone and zeroing it out, and it'll turn that zone off in the oven. Going back to the main screen. Next thing we'll take a look at. This is the opening screen. This is the screen that you'll see when you first turn on the machine. The next screen we will look at will be the tool setup, and it's very basic. This allows you to raise and lower the upper and lower tooling table. So we can see how that works here. Go back to the opening screen. And from the opening screen, we can look at the upper and lower heat. We can just move right into those if we wanted to. So the next thing we'll be taking a look at is the timer setup. And these are all the processes of the equipment. First being the heat time. That's the amount of time that the clamping frame is in the oven. Then we have, below that you can see the air start time. That's for the air blast. This is not for the upper pressure box. This is actually for the air blast on the lower tool. The air blast is to help release the plastic part from the mold. And you can see that this is going to be starting 46 seconds. The reason we have it set for that is because we want the air start time to exceed the vacuum duration, because we don't want the air to come on while the vacuum is currently operating. And the actual duration of the air blast is here. We have it set for 1/10 of a second. It needs to be just a very quick blast of air just to help release the plastic from the mold. We can see below that the upper tool time. Again, that's the amount of time that the upper tool will be in the lower position. So in the active position. You can see the lower tool time here. The lower tool time, same as the upper. How long the lower tool will be in the up active position. And we want the lower tool time to be the longest of all the times. We want it to be exceeding the vacuum duration and the air assist, air blast time. We don't want the vacuum to remain active while the lower tool is trying to retract. You can, however, retract the upper tool to allow the fans to do their job and help cool the product a little bit more quickly. So if we look below the vac duration, 45 seconds, the vac start time is a delay. So basically what it's delaying is the amount of travel time that it takes the lower table to move from the lower position to the upper position. We have it set for 4 seconds right now. That can be sped up quite considerably. That's just an example. So you would have your vac start time. You don't want the vacuum to start before the table has reached the fully in position, fully up position. Below that we have our auxiliary, and in this case the auxiliary is for the upper pressure box. So again, we have the start time. We don't want the pressure to activate before the tooling has come together, so we have a delay. Again, here's just 4 seconds. This is just an example. And then we have a duration. So however long you want the pressure to be active for, you can set it for here. More than likely, it would be somewhere, 5 to 10 seconds at the most, depending on what you're doing. It's all a trial and error. So these are the main timing control screens. This equipment will come with a full set of detailed written instructions that will go over everything we discussed here.